Alexander Main. Well, I run a startup company at CC, which is part of CBS, for about 1 year now. Like the vision of the company is to create a group of multidisciplinary people, engineers, product designers, philosophers, and technologists, and create a self-sufficient skunkworks, which is an innovation sort of small innovation team, and use that to push innovation to the world and build the products of the future. That's my purpose. Work-life balance. It's pretty much really hard to nail. Maybe some people say that it's not possible when you're an entrepreneur, but that frustrates me a lot.
My name is Edith. I am studying organizational innovation and entrepreneurship. Being something that like people will see and be like, oh, she looks like she got her shit together, but she's still crazy at the same time. But just being that like force. It's kind of like selling somebody a dream of something that hasn't happened. Like, how do you try to do something and make somebody understand that their reality is about to change, but not really, like, not have anything physical to show them. So it's just trying to become a really good storyteller to get your idea out there to change the world.
Anam Hijab, but people call me Anna. I'm a change agent, but and I do it through social entrepreneurship. Basically, lack of understanding of the concept and the idea, and how people are following it just because it's a trend. But there's more to it than just that.
My name is Nicholas. I study at CBS and I'm reading a minor in design and strategy, and I'm currently working at a company called Friday Copenhagen. I think I'm still trying to figure it out, but I do enjoy the pursuit of new adventures and new knowledge. So I think that's part of my purpose, but I haven't figured it out quite yet. The way I see it, at least, a lot of entrepreneurial endeavors are not actually creating value, but more creating like the concept of value. So I think there's, to some extent, a lack of ethics and morality in entrepreneurship, and it's all about growing and selling out, cashing out quickly. All right, so welcome. And today, of course, we're going to talk a bit about entrepreneurship, some different facets and dimensions of it. And first of all, to kind of set the stage, we're here today at CSE's Entrepreneurial Day, where there's a lot of speakers, there's some startups presenting, a general like awareness of entrepreneurship. Why is it important, do you think, to create awareness of entrepreneurship?
Well, I can start.
Yep.
Well, as the global economy is dropping, it's not as good as it used to be. Mm-hmm. So I think it's now entrepreneurship is a good temporary solution for it in a way, because a lot of like our generation, Gen Y, it's like we are more educated than our predecessors, and at the same time there are less opportunities. So one good way to do it is take charge and do it on your own.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So it's a solution to the world economy? That's
in a way.
The way you see it?
Yeah, that's the way I see it.
What do you think about that, Alex?
I mean, just if you look at the numbers, startups and small companies are ultimately pushing the whole economy further and creating so many jobs. So if we don't have these crazy people who are going to say, okay, I think we can do this better, and I'm going to, put in what it takes to make that a reality and make it a business, that's ultimately, I feel like, what's pushing the world further. If we just like keep on doing things the way they've been done forever, then we get, we would have never left the caves. And I feel like entrepreneurs, always these people who are like ready to step up and do something, right? So we need more of that for sure. And awareness, I mean, there's a lot of things that I feel like needs to be taken out of this sort of fantasy world within entrepreneurship. Unfortunately, a lot of people are just watching the social network and having this sort of like misconception of what it actually is and what it takes. So creating awareness of the reality, it is ultimately what's gonna like actually make people go through that and not just start and then quit. So that's my take.
So they get things done and create jobs and move things forward.
It's like the whole economy is driven by entrepreneurs.
Yeah, that's a pretty bold statement.
I mean, it is.
Do you agree, Edith?
I agree.
Entrepreneurs.
I feel on her point of saying like we're more educated, so there's like more of a void in terms of what we can do. So there's a huge market of really educated population that's also almost as big as like our parents that need things to do. We're not going to go and be content working at a factory mill or something like that. So the only way to get those things better, or to make something for us that we feel good in doing, is basically creating something for ourselves, and which will create jobs for other people. It's like, oh, that's cool too, and we also are not into like doing things 9 to 5 anymore. Like most offices, like you can come in or work at home, and like they're being very lax in the way office should run. So we're just saying that we are perpetuating the culture of entrepreneurism to make things better for us, because we know that we're not our parents, kind of, yeah.
But regarding the whole creating jobs thing, at least in Denmark, the vast majority of small companies that are being registered only hires like one person, the founder itself. So like, where do you see that startups are actually creating jobs? Are they creating jobs for the masses or only for the founder and his friend?
Right. I mean, of course, depends, right? Like at the beginning, right? Of course it's just you and your friend or whatever, but you would like to think or hope that it's going to grow, and one day you're not going to be a startup anymore, and that you will become something larger. But getting there, of course, that's so hard. And that's why most of the startups don't make it after a few years. They never get into that level where they actually start hiring, or so yeah, I mean, startups are small, but doesn't mean that they need to stay small.
But why do they not get there? Anna, what do you think? Like, if the idea is good, why do they not get there?
Well, I think
How hard can it be?
depends. It really depends on what you're doing, to be honest.
Yeah.
See, suppose from a social entrepreneurial perspective, where what I used to work with micro women businesses, like small women, and we'd educate them so they could go and create their own businesses. So in a way, we were sort of training them to create their own businesses, hire themselves. And that's how, one step at a time it grew. Like I teach something to them and then go and they do their own thing and, create on increasing that. But then again, all startups don't pick up. That is a reality. I know there's a lot of hype and talk about it. Oh, it's so cool to have your own startup, be your own person, your own boss. But the reality is much more different. And let's be honest, most people from Gen Y, they're still pretty young, right? Like, they're all pretty young. So we still don't really have the expertise or the life skills to know what we're doing. Yeah.
But so what is the reality? You talk about it as well.
The
Like, what is
reality
the
of
startup reality?
Startup reality,
Yeah,
why
in contradiction to what people see the startup.
what people think of startups and what it feels to actually
what
run a
is-
startup.
What is the reality?
Oh, yeah.
Damn, I feel like I've grown very much to dislike this, word, entrepreneurship and entrepreneurs.
What is that? Can you
Who is like
express
this
it?
thing that people just think that, oh yeah, it's so cool to run a business, and they just talk about it, but they don't actually do it. Because doing it is gonna like make you realize what it actually takes to do it. Like I mean, yes, it could be like your passion, right? And I hope it is, but you will have to just put the hours. I mean, no one is gonna say, hey, that's a cool idea. Like, I'm gonna make it happen for you, right?
Yeah.
So the hard work and the sacrifices that go into that, something that, you only kind of learn when you do it. But if you don't do it and just like hear stories and read the Elon Musk biography or like books like that and movies, it's like, it sounds really cool. And actually it is, I mean.
It does, yeah, but the difference, it's like swimming, you know, you can read as much as you can about swimming and like watch all the videos you want to, but once you're in the water, then you're like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Like I have to, now I have to, you know, swim, now I have to
Work
do
for
it.
it.
Yeah, work for it. And the tides could be rough, the water could be cold, it could be hot, it could be, I don't know, some good pee in it, and you're still in it, you know, it's like that.
I also believe like being an entrepreneur and like the reason why it wouldn't take off or something like that, it's also maybe the market is not ready. There's so many things that were before. Google wasn't the first search engine. You had MySpace before Facebook. You had so many other things, or the MP3, Apple didn't make the first one. Like you have so many things in life that people are just not ready for it, or it's just the avenue you take. Like maybe the nice case was what made somebody want to buy this one except for this one. And it's not also just putting in the hours, it's also about what the market is ready for. Because we can preach to ourselves all the time, but if you don't do the market research and ask people, do you see yourself this making your life easy? And if they don't agree with it, then it's like you're just making it for yourself at that time. And you just have to wait for the time to come before you do it. And a lot of, I believe a really great entrepreneur knows when to chuck one idea to the side and start moving on something else. Like, this idea is great, I've gotten this to this point, the customer knowledge is there, let me chuck that one and start something else that elevated on top of the project I originally started.
So there's also an element of luck and timing.
Luck, timing, and growth. And just because every experience we have is from, like, you know not to put your hand in the fire from you touching it yourself.
Yeah.
But you could tell a child not to do that unless that child goes themselves. They're gonna continue trying to do it. So it's just things like that.
True. It's a combination of things, you know.
Yeah.
But what I personally think, one thing that really matters is like your grit, how persistent you are. But yeah, also have to do it very smartly, you know. You just don't have to smash your head to the wall. You need to realize, hey, this wall, my head can take it, I can break it. And there are other walls you're just like, no, I can't do it, that's not for me, you know.
So from what you're saying about entrepreneurship and what it takes to be an entrepreneur, it sounds like sounds pretty amazing. Like you're focused, you're creative, you get things done, you know yourselves, everything. So that's like the entrepreneur and the entrepreneurship environment. But there's also the established corporations, the big businesses that already exist. And like, what's your take on that? How do you feel about corporates?
Big companies?
Big
companies.
Who in the big companies? The founders, partners, people working there?
I think big companies are interesting because they basically, for the past 3.5 years, I've worked for a big company at home, a fashion brand. And when you first think of it, before it was a private company, and once it got bought, you just see their whole thought process was making margin, making money, and then the person who was actually started the brand didn't actually, like, you couldn't see that person anymore. You just saw everybody was going for like the margin, they just wanted to make money. So in big corporations, they had this idea, like they started from something very, like something true with its own identity, and then all of a sudden it turns into something else about the money. So that causes people to be like, I don't feel as creative as I am anymore. Like, I don't feel like my actual ideas are making an impact into the bigger picture. And I think that's something our generation wants. Like, we love to see immediate, like, thing.
Why is that not possible in a big corporate setting?
Well,
they have tons of money, they have facilities.
You can have an
resources.
impact.
But it's the mindset. It's the mindset.
Bureaucracy.
Yeah, the
Mindset,
bureaucracy. Yeah.
bureaucracy.
Yeah, there's like the manager wants to listen to at times if you're very lucky, but at the same time there's so many rules and standards and processes, and there's so many layers that it just dies off.
Yeah.
Like the idea, it just dies off.
I feel like I want to be the devil's advocate now because
It's perfect.
there's
Bring
so
it.
much like people blaming corporations. It almost sounds like a bad word in a way. Like, it's slow. There's so many like layers, and it's hard to innovate. But I mean, a company eventually, if it grows and grows, it will become larger, and then you will have to sort of like create a way of the company to work. But the larger it gets, the harder it is to like remain true to the initial vision, and to I mean, it just kind of work. I mean, it's like a big like the way I see entrepreneurship. It's like an ocean, right? Or like the business world in general. So you have a big ship, that could be a very established sort of corporation with like 5,000 plus employees, and it's very steady, right? It's like people that work in there, they know that they have to like listen to their boss and do whatever they're told to, but they know that they're kind of in this very stable, right? Then you have SMEs, smaller boats, still kind of stable, you know, they can be much more innovative than the other ones. Then you have startups. Startups for me are like a little raft.
A kayak.
A kayak in this huge ocean where you initially, I feel like initially you didn't even have a kayak. So you're like jumping into it, and you have to like somehow like look around, like, oh, there's something there, put it, and then you stay afloat. So I think at the beginning, it's all about like staying alive and not drowning. I feel like that's it sounds really rush, but that's like the risk that you're going to take. But then the corporations obviously fail in doing that. If the ocean sort of like changes to rough, it's much easier to adapt if you're a smaller company, right? And if you're a ship, like you could go down and like if the market changes, if whatever new disruptive technology appears.
So you can understand bigger corporations, but your critique is that they're not agile enough to their surroundings.
They're trying to, and some companies try more than others. Yeah.
And you feel like there's a lack of creativity?
I don't feel that I've met a lot of the most creative people in my life working in corporations, because that's where you get your start. Like, you know how a company is run, you see it, and you work with these people, and you learn to go back and forth with ideas. However, it's just the fact it takes a long time. So imagine going into a meeting, like in a startup, it's two different situations. You go into a meeting, you have your plans, your agenda, and you want to get something done. In a corporation, you have that one meeting, then you have a follow-up meeting to say, oh no, we can't do this one, but we have to do this one, let's brainstorm about this one. You have another meeting, oh, we have to brainstorm about this one and do this one, and then come together.
Don't forget the emails.
Oh yes, and then a back and forth email about it. A startup, on the other hand.
Just quickly, personal experiences, or is it your perception?
Oh, my personal experience.
Personal experience.
Even I've worked with corporations before.
Personal experience.
Yeah.
And like a startup is like, you guys sit down, you talk, you brainstorm ideas, and then execute. Execution. Like, it doesn't have to go so many steps up, it's just executed. Or you execute it to the best of your abilities and come back again and try to tweak what you've already done.
You know what's very interesting though, it's my personal belief that to be more successful as an entrepreneur, it's very important to work in a corporation actually. Because if you're fresh out of college, you're very young, you're very naive, you're very much simplistic in many ways, and you don't know how the market is. So the best and the easiest way is to jump on, like you said, a big ship, learn how the waters are, what's the direction of the winds, and after that, take out your own kayak and just, float away.
Take your life vest on and swim to the kayak.
Swim, But by then you already have a small network, you have an understanding of things, you're more sure of yourself and your product as well in many ways. Yeah.
I do understand your critique of corporations not being as agile and whatnot, but again, you can't deny that corporations have so much more influence. They create more impact than startups. They have more resources. They have more team members. They might not be as agile, but why don't you as entrepreneurs try to fix that problem? Because that's what you've been saying, that's what you do as entrepreneurs, is you take action, you create impact. Why not do it in a large ship that's already built, it's already there?
Good luck.
It has the resources.
Good luck with that.
Why?
It just sounds like it would be something very easy, right? I mean, if you want to do that, as what? What position? Like, you want to go into a huge corporation and say, I'm going to now like take control and like do this and that.
Why not?
You can't.
Why not?
You can and you can't.
Yeah,
Well-
it's a very
An entrepreneur is
I mean, where's the persistence? Where's the resilience you were talking
Persistence.
about?
I
Why
mean, you
can't
have to become somewhere at the sea level, perhaps. And I mean, why would you try to change your corporation externally and not do something yourself, I guess?
But you can, kind of.
You can, how?
You can how?
So an entrepreneur is a disruptor. So they disrupt the system. They disrupt the way people are thinking. They disrupt the society. You're a threat to a corporation. If I start a business that's a threat to your corporation, wouldn't you just come and say, hey, I like what you're doing, take some money, go and finish. You could say that with Uber. You know, Google doesn't have, at first Google was investing in Uber before it became the company it was, because they want to know the technology. They want to start their own driving system and service, so they invested a lot in it, and then they let it go. So there's so many corporations that actually do that, because we can just, if I bring something that's fatal to your business, or you haven't thought of something but you have the capital for, you can change a corporation and join it, but not just on the level you can get bought out, but not on the level of like, I'm about to call up Steve Jobs, RIP, or call up somebody like Bill Gates, like, you know what, I have the best idea, let's do this right now. They're not gonna do it, but if you take the action and you disrupt the system, they're gonna look at you.
You know, I've known of so many entrepreneurs being picked up by big corporations and being like becoming part of the bigger companies and playing their role there. But then again, I think this is too much of a vague term, the debate, because it really depends. At times you're in a corporation and it's not easy to change. What if the corporation doesn't want to change? They're very they're conservative in their beliefs, and you'd only be the odd one out in that way. And one thing I guess we should know about human nature is everyone hates change. Everyone loves the idea, we idealize it, but by the end of the day, when it really comes, we hate change. And when you're the change agent, yeah, you know, it's not that easy.
But how does like everything fit together? That you're saying like corporations aren't agile, so that's why I'm an entrepreneur. But at the same time, I'm willing to sell my startup to a corporation. Aren't you just feeding into the very same system that you guys are criticizing?
No, I
Not
don't
really.
think so.
Depends.
Why not?
I don't think so, because
So you do acknowledge that corporations can be more agile, or they can't?
they
because
could
of
be
the
okay. So I think in the grand scheme of things, a corporation, their biggest thing at the point in time when you get to that big level is their bottom dollar. So as an entrepreneur, and I said before, we disrupt the systems. That's what we do. So when you have something that disrupts the systems and work like kind of messes with your bottom dollar, you're going to look for a way to either join it so you can get a piece of that, B, dismantle it so it doesn't change the way, like there's a lot of companies out there that are spending so much money in the politics to lobby against certain things, knowledge for people to have. So you could have this, as an entrepreneur, there's many types of entrepreneurs. There's some entrepreneurs that believe that they just want to start a company and that's where they're going to finish their company, that's where they're going to die at, like that is their baby. And there's some people that just want to fill void. So they're basically, I start one company, I drop it, I do something else. You can say the guy from PayPal, like he's like started many different companies and he just starts it, drops it, go. So there's so many different types of entrepreneurs. Like not all entrepreneurs are just looking for, I need to change a big corporation. They want to change the lifestyle. They want to change the way people feel, the way people think. And in those type of ways, you have to, like a corporation is not going to just take it like that. They're just going to look for somebody that disrupts the system.
But if you want to work for them, let's say that for like work with or in a corporation, it sounds like they are the ones that need to adapt to you guys and not the other way around.
Well, see, if you want...
That sounds kind of entitled,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, it's not.
We are, yeah.
I'll say one thing. I personally believe that we're not entitled to anything as human beings except for hard work. And when you put hard work, effort, and put real genuine value in it, that's what you're entitled to. But in reality, it's a two-way. They need to take a step forward, we need to take a step forward as well. So for me, as in like when I apply for a job, I will always see, okay, this company is doing this. I see myself fitting this. But at the end of the day, what are they doing? How are they contributing? Because our generation is very much conscious about our environment in many ways now. Because let's be honest, our younger, like our children, I'm afraid to give this world to my children because it's not a good place to be, because there are lesser resources. There's like water's like, there's so much pollution. There's like the water reserves are like depleting. So in that way, if a company is conscious about it and they're genuinely doing something about it, me being a social entrepreneur, I would love to contribute and go under their banner and work with a lot of dedication and loyalty, because it's like this, if I see an entrepreneur as like a samurai, because you're trained, you're skilled, you have these artistic abilities, your skill is your sword, and I can fight alone, or I can fight with a band of samurais, as long as the cause is just and right.
I just feel like listening to this whole conversation, right? You started talking about why entrepreneurs, what do they bring to the world, right? And then started talking about corporations and so on. And then I was thinking, I mean, like as you said, you own nothing to them, right? So if most people, let's just be honest, okay, most people want to do something meaningful for a job, but most people equally don't want to. They're okay with the things the way they are, and they're not ready to do a change, because all they want is just go to your job and get paid, so then you can enjoy life, right? So entrepreneurs are like, your life is your work in a way. And so those sort of like type of people, even in our generations, are still gonna go and hire these companies with where we don't owe anything to them, and they're gonna say and keep the same things the way they are. But then us, I guess, the ones who don't give a damn about them, or say don't want to like be put into a box or something and want to create our own thing, we are not going to be fitting into that, and we're going to create our own because of that, perhaps. So like the fact that corporations are maybe not so inviting to people like us is a driving factor for us to say, okay, I don't feel fulfilled there, so I'm going to start my own thing. So it's kind of like a circle in a way. I feel like I was just like thinking that it's kind of like, and so how we can help them? Perhaps the best way to help them is not to work for them.
So that might be.
It sounds so harsh, but I mean, they have to do something themselves. I mean, why would someone else care about my startup and tell me what I should do? Why should we do that for corporations? You understand?
For stability. I think
But if everyone has that idea that like, why should I join you? You're just a corporation.
Because it's like the ocean, right? If the waters are like changing, so industries are being disrupted, then whoever is running that company or corporation has to take the lead and do something. But you cannot like expect that people will get hired and help the CEO do something. You know what I mean?
I don't think okay, so we're talking about like let me go into big industry. I don't think any finance person says, I'm about to learn finance so I can change the world to become a better place. It's their own ego. Oh my God, I'm about to make a lot of money. So you have to think about people that just want to just be in a system and work, collect their paychecks, and live the life that they, like you were saying before. And then there's some people that just are not into that. Like, corporations would do so much there's a huge market that are people that are just very content. Like, being an entrepreneur is not like, right now it's a thing, but you could say you're an entrepreneur, but the way you act, the way you perpetuate your life in society and stuff like that, that's an entrepreneur. But there's a huge group of people, the majority, that are very content with working at a corporation. They're very content living the corporate life. They just need to work out how to keep Generation Y into it by like fixing up their offices and not doing cubicles and having more open space. But there's a lot of people that are just okay with collecting a salary and working at a corporation.
Yeah, I guess it's like being adaptive to change. And it has to be for everyone, like for companies, for SMEs, for entrepreneurs. You would survive if you're agile enough. It doesn't matter who you are by the end of the day.
If you have all these characteristics, if entrepreneurship is really the tool to change the world and create impact, with that comes a lot of responsibility. And I'm just asking, where does that line go? Where are the ethics and morality in it?
I think the most people I know that are entrepreneurs, they tend to start their own thing, and by doing that, I think that you're doing enough of a change. Like, that's how you can help a corporation have to change, because someone is coming and doing something a different way that maybe is working better in the current waters.
But is change for the sake of change, is that a value in itself, or is it just a gimmick?
Change is always a value, I think.
Why?
Change is the only constant thing in life. Change is the only thing in life that is constant. It doesn't matter the level of the change, it doesn't matter when to change or time, but you know change is coming. And if you decide that you don't want to ride this change, this train of change, you see how societies fall back, and like we need, like the surge is happening around Donald Trump being elected. It's because people are afraid or believe that change is not going to be a thing. And you have these type of extremes. So as an entrepreneur, owning the fact that change is going to come, and we're going to help people with the change, because whatever we're producing or doing is to help or kind of change a society for change, or set it up for change, if you think of it that way.
Change is good in itself.
I think change is good when people are willing to change, right? Like they're willing to take the change and work with the change. Does that make any sense?
I mean, it's happening other way, right? So
Yeah.
what are you gonna do with the change, right?
Yeah.
But just to give an example, Dan Lyons, journalist, started working in a startup and wrote a book about it. And he kind of analyzed the whole Silicon Valley trend going on. And he saw there was an influx in venture capitalists promoting and investing in these companies because it was change, change for the sake of change. I think he found out that about 60 tech companies, only 11 made a profit. They made a real profit. And all these companies, at one hand, they made the founders multimillionaires, but their workers, employees didn't get 2 cents, basically. So I'm not like, that's an example of the ethics and morality of the entrepreneurial scene not being intact with the real world, and change not being good for the sake of change.
Got it.
Yeah.
What's your
Actually,
take on that?
This I would say is the dark side of entrepreneurship, because it leaves you open to more exploitation. Yeah. You're more vulnerable. With a company, especially again being a woman, traditional organizations have these rules and standards which does protect you, like against a lot of things. But when you're an entrepreneur, you're vulnerable, you're on your own, you are on your own, and then you are vulnerable if you're not smart enough. If you're smart, you're lucky, you have a lot of people behind your back, backing you up, then you're good. But yeah, people are out there to exploit you. That's why I always say, that's why I've said it before as well, the word entrepreneurship is thrown around very carelessly while there's so much more towards. And then sadly, younger generation's not aware of it. They just think it's cool to be an entrepreneur, but it's
Dark
not.
side of entrepreneurship, really quickly.
A what?
The dark side of entrepreneurship.
The dark side
Really quickly.
is that you wanna do something good, and I would like to think that most entrepreneurs would like to do something, a positive change to the world. But then the reality is that then you have to start thinking about business, and as long as we are in this sort of system, we need to make a profit, right? We need to make it sustainable. So then your initial maybe vision that you had maybe was very naive in some way, or very utopian. Yeah, I want to do that, and then the reality, boom. Yeah. You have to make a profit here. If you're not, then there's no change. At least that's my
Edith?
yeah.
The dark side. I just think you're just open up to you're open up to the people with the powers kind of direction that you have to go into. Like if you want to start up your business, you thought you really wanted to do something and it changed just like you said, but that person with the money can influence you to deviate a little bit from what you're trying to do, but you have to do it because you kind of you feel like, oh my God, this person is giving me so much, I need to do this. So you just stray away from the original idea because of that. But it also makes you stronger to say, it's just like real life. You don't have to say yes for everything. You can continue going on without that person's money and finding somebody else that's a part of your like views and stuff to support you. So that's the dark side.
Thank you.
Hey, wait. No bright side?
No bright side.
There's no.